Good morning, everybody. Meet your Alma back here again because we're going to talk today about living in the Arctic, and it's by Alan Fowler. This book, and it's a lovely little book because it tells us all about our geography and people in other lands, and we can take some clues from the front cover all together, boys and girls, about where the Arctic might be because what is surrounded by that child there in the photograph. I hear you all telling me it's snow, of course, and ice. And how is the child dressed, boys and girls? Yes, I hear you saying covered in fur, covered in animal skins. Very well, nicely made. Does she look cozy, boys and girls? Yes, absolutely. There's a smile on her face, and she's got gloves on her and a very, very well made, beautiful coat. And this is how the Inuits, or the Eskimo people who live in the Arctic region, dress, because they must use the hides, that's the skin of animals, to make their clothes, because it's the only way for them to survive the very, very low temperatures and freezing cold that exists up in the Arctic. So let's read something now about living in the Arctic, and we'll see what the book tells us. So it's by Alan Fowler, boys and girls, and on a cold, snowy day, people sometimes say it's Arctic weather. Do you know where the Arctic is? Yes, I hear some of you saying it's in the northern hemisphere. It's at the top of the world. Yes, that could be a description for it too. Yes, it's right up above us, isn't it? It's way on up inside the Arctic Circle. And let's look at the map. And here's the map. And the X in the middle marks the very top of the world at the North Pole. We all know who lives in the North Pole. Yes, that's right, Santa Claus. And here, all the way going around it, is the Arctic Circle, going all the way around. So it goes through a lot of countries, doesn't it, boys and girls? It goes through parts of Russia. It goes through some of the Scandinavian countries of Finland, Norway and Sweden. It goes down through the island of Greenland. It goes down through Canada, North Canada and Alaska, and all the way back around to Russia again. So look, it's a very big, big area, and it's surrounded by the Arctic Ocean. And look at the amount of ocean is there, boys and girls, to be frozen over all of the time. Mountains and mountains of ice, glaciers and snow. The Arctic Circle is an area of land and water around the North Pole. Parts of the United States, Canada and other countries are in the Arctic Circle, but most of the Arctic is a body of water called the Arctic Ocean. Now look at this boat, boys and girls, going through the ice when it melts. And you know that it's melting ice there because there's not as much snow up in those mountains in the background, is there? Now, almost all the Arctic Ocean is covered up with a thick ice cap. The edges of this ice cap melt in the summer. Ships can then sail along the coasts of the Arctic lands. So the ships can get through at the edge of the Arctic Ocean only in summer when the ice caps melt. In summer you can see the sun nearly all night long. This is because the North Pole is facing the sun during summer. So there it is, sun by day and by night, because it shines that way because the North Pole is facing the sun during summer. There is little sunlight during the Arctic winter. This is because the North Pole is facing away from the sun. Days are almost as dark as nights. So look at it, boys and girls. It's like day and night dark, isn't it? Because it doesn't really get very bright at all because now the North Pole is facing away from the sun. So here you have the frozen tundra, and tundra is just the land, boys and girls, the land that's called tundra. This is how it is in winter. Not an awful lot of snow falls in the Arctic. It's more the winds that are chilling and very cold. And then when plants do grow in the summer, boys and girls, they're very low-lying, close to the ground, because it's still very cold, but they just grow a little in the summer in the sun, in the tundra. Much of the land within the Arctic Circle is called tundra. Snow covers the tundra in winter. The soil is frozen. Only the top 12 inches of soil thaw in summer. Then grasses and mosses and shrubs can grow, but not trees. No trees at all there, because it's only very low-lying plants and shrubs that can grow there because of the extreme cold. Here is a little Inuit girl wearing a parka. So she has her lovely parka coat on there, boys, and the lovely fur going around the edges, and it's designed lovely with nice ribbons. That is quite traditional to Scandinavian, and kind of Lapps is the name of these people. They were Eskimos or Inuits, but they used to be known as the Lapps in Scandinavia. And you always know the difference between the tribes, because Scandinavians or the Lapps normally have brighter coloured clothing, and the other Inuits, which are in Greenland and Russia and Canada and so on, are more traditional with the animal furs. So people find ways to live in the cold Arctic regions. Did you ever wear a parka, a jacket with a hood? The first people to make parkas were probably the Inuit. Inuit live in the Arctic regions of Canada and Alaska. So there you go. Inuits travel on water in boats called kayaks, or longer boats called umiaks, and they build igloos of hard snow. So here's the man out, look at that, cutting out blocks of ice and snow from the ground, putting it together, and then they seal up all the joints where they join up and all these cracks with more snow and fill it in so that nothing can get in and that they're very much sheltered. So here is an Inuit man out fishing in his kayak, and they put the little nets, you see the fishing nets around him here, and he sits and waits until he gets some fish and takes it back to their home. But more often, Inuit homes are made of stone or covered with animal skins. Inuits also live in towns. So here would be an Inuit home or an Eskimo home covered in the animal furs, as you can see, and made from blocks. Sometimes in the summer they make it out of the soil, out of the clay block, and they build their door and everything on it. But still not as fancy as we're used to, boys and girls, is it? And Inuit artists make beautiful carvings out of whale bones, walrus tusks, or a rock called soapstone. So look at the beautiful carvings that they make. They're very, very, very talented. This is an Inuit man here, boys and girls, in the picture, and they've cut out a little bit of whale bone or a little bit of walrus bone, and he's used his bow and arrow to kill the bear. And what sort of bear would that be? Correct. Polar bear. Now, here's another lady, and this is a Sami woman with a reindeer, boys and girls, or a caribou, as we also call it, and she definitely looks more Scandinavian and Lapp, as we would say. And the Sami are people who live in the Arctic parts of Russia, Finland, Sweden and Norway. Some Sami tend reindeer. They get milk and meat from the reindeer. They use their hides for clothing, and the hides is the skin of the animal that when they die they would use this part here then to make clothing and coats out of, and boots and shoes and all of that. Here's your musk oxen, and its little baby calf. And here we have our friend from today, the Arctic fox. So some other Arctic animals are polar bears, musk oxen, Arctic foxes, and hares. They all have heavy coats to keep them warm. Most definitely, they'd need a lot of fur. And look at the amount of fur and hide on that musk oxen, boys and girls. Many birds nest in the Arctic, such as puffins, loons, and ducks. And here we have seals and walruses and whales swim in the Arctic Ocean. And here is a whole lot of walruses sitting on the rocks. And look at their big, long toothed tusks coming out of them, boys and girls. And they use that to crack open the ice and to bite, or not bite through it, but to break through the ice and to be able to make holes in the ice. People must be clever and animals must be tough to live in the Arctic cold, because there's nothing there but bare ice. Even when the rivers and the seas, the seas freeze over, the Arctic sea freezes over. If it was choppy waves at the time, it could just freeze in mid-air. And that's why all these extra, it looks like it's splashing out, doesn't it, boys and girls? But it's all icicles that have just frozen in mid-air. Very interesting to see all the different lies of the land and how the tundra freezes over in the Arctic. So to recap some of the words and people that you know, this is the Arctic, and here we have the Arctic, and here we have an igloo, and we have an Inuit or an Eskimo, and a kayak. And there you have your musk oxen, puffins, your Sami people, which are the people from Russia, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, or the Lapps as they were known. And then you have the tundra, and that's the tundra frozen, and that's the tundra when it's summertime. And then you've all the walruses there lying on the rocks. So that was an interesting little book about the living in the Arctic, boys and girls, and I hope it gave you some insight to our topic of the next few weeks.